Welcome to this week's edition of MDM's Quicktake. I'm Tom Gale. My guest today is Mike Marks of Indian River Consulting Group. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm taking a little bit of a vacation in the Southeast, but I wanted to take time today to talk with you and catch up.
Well, it's fun. I just got back from UID, and they had, again, a record crowd and had some new folks. There was just a ton of energy. People are back out and excited, and it's really interesting. There was a small percentage of people talking about their market softened, in February, and now it's changed in March. But by and large, everybody else is, the Fed says we don't have supply chain problems anymore, and almost the vast majority of people are living with supply chains. They're excited, and I just don't think the media that's reporting everything now is reflecting what I saw at UID with 600 people.
So the best headline I saw was about a week and a half ago. I think it was, I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal that this is the Godot recession because it keeps getting, everybody's waiting for it. It keeps getting pushed off another 6 months.
Waiting for Godot. I love it. Well, it may happen. Who knows? So it just be light on your feet. But I was very, you always get a good feel when you have 600 distributor execs, and they're all either senior executives or high potential employees, and they all get together for a week, and you can feel the energy. It's going to be an exciting year for distributors, based on the energy I saw in the room.
So far, and what you're just saying here is that it's going to outpace many people's expectations.
Well said, sir. That's why you're the senior editor guy.
Yeah. So this week, Mike, AI is in the news again, and it's, I think, a very good time to talk about what it means for distributors, and not just AI. Earlier this week, OpenAI released GPT-4, which pundits are describing as equal parts game-changing, exciting, and scary. So I'd like to talk through with you, and I know you've been spending a lot of time looking into this. I'd like to go in because this has completely blown off the MDM hype meter, which was, as you know, calibrated to withstand high levels of impact. But this has just totally blown the meter off.
Yeah, you need a couple stages above your hypercritical. Well, but I mean the whole thing's nuts. It turned out, when Microsoft updated Bing, with their little AI thing, it turned out, because they're the ones that paid $10 billion to OpenAI, a not-for-profit company, to get access to all the various tools. It turned out they were actually using GPT-4, and it blew up. They had to kind of pull the thing back, but they had an app called Prometheus. But what's really interesting about all these things, and what happened back in May of 20 with before GPT-3 was released in May of 20, and everybody got all freaked out because it was, if you remember, Terminator and Skynet, it became self-aware. GPT-3, it was the first time an AI became self-aware in a very limited, narrow sense, but it scared everybody to death because when you train a GPT model, it's a language model that goes out and basically takes everything off the internet and puts it all together. And GPT-3 taught itself how to multiply 2-digit numbers so it could organize everything it was learning from the web. And everybody locked up for a while till they figured they could go. But people get the guy at Google that got fired because he said it was actually alive is because it had true conversational stuff. And I've got an analogy I've been using to try to simplify it for people. And we were just talking about UID. One of the things with UID, they find instructors that actually know the industry. So nobody's going to be up there if they can't tell the difference between MRO and OEM, and they can think critically. But a lot of times you can see speakers, especially like in the motivation category, they wrote some kind of book that it can sit in an airport bookstore or something, and they know this one speech that they do over and over. They can be brilliant speakers. People can love them. But if you can be a really good speaker and be an idiot, right? Because they can't answer any questions outside. And so what all these apps are doing now, and if you look at Dolly, if you look at any of the rest, Dolly's an image one, what they end up doing is they have great conversation, but the only thing they converse about is what they've been trained on. And the other thing that people don't understand is that it's tokens. They're not actually, they imagine if you play chess and you say, I'm going to move a knight, or I'm going to move a bishop. And if I do that, then you're going to do this. And then you think, well, if I do the other one, and the thing just expands exponentially when you start looking at all the alternatives, multiply it by a billion. And what they do is they take a look at what you just said in terms of the words, 3 words, 5 words, 1 word, 10 words, and they look at that pattern of words and say what normal words would follow that. And so they've done this at numbers that are just incomprehensible to most people. And so they look at the words and they find that they just call that's called a token, and they give you the next token that comes back. But what it can do is it can actually give you all kinds of what seem like intelligent responses, but it's speaking, it's not thinking. They don't actually think. There's a lot of arguing about, are they semi-aware, how does it all work? But for a distributor, think about all the chatbots people have. You go to the website, but if you're going to do any of this, you need to actually get the learning. You take all this big data that they pulled off the internet, you then train it with your specific data as a distributor, right? Here's my product descriptions and things like that. And there's a lot of ways that can get pulled in, so you don't have people sitting here manually putting things in, but you take general data, you take your company specific data, and then what you end up doing is the thing will take all the language that's coming in from customers and then respond. And the whole purpose of it is it does one of two things. It either gets the customer the answer they need, a specific answer, very quickly, because in a little chatbot on a website, if somebody's logged in and you actually know it's them, that the customer can ask a question about an invoice number and actually get the answer right on the chatbot. Right. But I mean, so that's practical from that point of view. The other key application that you're going to find as a distributor is, if I still have to take the general information, I have to add all my specific stuff in my company so it knows what I am. And then what it does, it will help if somebody comes in and starts asking questions, it can elicit information and then respond. I mean, if you look at Eva which is the Epicor model, and then if you look at Coleman, which is the Infor model, both of those are trying to create chatbots that are just like what was an Iron Man Jarvis, the deal that Iron Man used. Well, they both have, and I've actually seen demonstrations. They're all still training. Part of the problem they have is that they didn't have these large base models, and they're trying to base them on their users, which is a very large user base for both those companies. But so all this is still in development. But this is kind of like, in terms of this stage, we're kind of like, go back several hundred years, and Galileo saying the world is round and we're all saying it's flat, and we're trying to decide if we're going to kill him. But I mean, everybody's playing with it now. Most people are doing it wrong, and they think they're looking for something finished, and we're at the very, very early stage, and it's accelerating really fast, because GPT-5 is already being trained now, according to Morgan Stanley. So sorry, I could go on forever. But there's a lot of apps.
We are definitely in the mad scientist laboratory, creating creatures that nobody quite knows what they're going to do at this point. So I mean, we're totally in that phase. I'd like to back up a little bit, because beyond the chatbots and sort of automating some of the customer facing piece of this, I think it's a much bigger connection in terms of, and this goes back to my problem with the term artificial intelligence. I wish the term was automated intelligence, because I think that's a more realistic way to think about the algorithms, which are at the heart of all this, that can really change for a business, whether it's a distribution company or a manufacturing company, how they can operate much more efficiently and tap into some of this, what's now out on the front edge, but I think is very quickly going to translate into meaningful tools that distributors can use. And specifically, I think companies like Infor and Epicor and what they're developing with the AI tools, they're probably going to be on the front line in terms of actually where distributors can get some traction out of it.
I agree. It's a ton of work. And if you really think about it from a distributor, even a manufacturer point of view, there's two kinds of knowledge. There's tacit knowledge. That's what people have in their heads. I just know it. It's all my life experience and everything. And then there's explicit knowledge. And explicit knowledge means it's out in some media that other people can access it. That's one of the core things with the CRM system, is to take the tacit knowledge and field salespeople and make it explicit. So that way the salespeople know what the outside salespeople know what the inside salespeople are telling customers, and everybody knows what everything's going. It's got creates transparency. So what AI does, and this goes back to automated versus artificial, because it goes right to your point. So imagine if I had all this knowledge and tacit and explicit, you get it all together in one place. I've got a knowledge base, and then customers, if you think about dealing with customers, they want access to the knowledge. People don't call you up and ask you, how do you generate cold fusion? I mean, they're calling up something about a business. And what the automated knowledge does, in terms of using your term, it is a way to very discreetly, somebody asks me a very specific question, I can take that huge knowledge base and instantly give them a very quick answer. So the idea is you're taking friction out of it for the customer, and things just go a lot smoother. But the issue is, how do you get all that data? Because it's not some magic secret sauce thing. You know, all these generative pre-trained transformers, which is what they are, right? They generate, they're pre-trained because of all this information. They transform the tokens into a conversation. So that's all they do. And it's just, there's so much work that's involved putting it together. You need your own company data. But once you do that, it's going to automate any of the questions people are going to have. They're going to be able to get the answers. And the other side of it, on the customer side, is you can actually start to use the AI in a way that it helps them figure out what the questions are they should be asking. There's one of the exciting things that people are starting to think about. If you think about unknown unknowns, right, and known unknowns, and just being able to anticipate and kind of pull that out and ask the right questions. People, so far, all the users that have been playing with this are asking basically stupid search questions like you'd ask Google. But the other thing is that you can actually use ChatGPT to actually come up with what are the key strategic questions you need to be looking at based on the data in your company.
Yeah. Wow. I think this is about the most tech geek speaky that I've ever heard you.
I've got it really bad, and because I'm connected to the industry in a couple of ways on a personal basis, and it's just fun trying to keep up. And I'm only getting like 5% of what's really happening here, but it's just really exciting. And the thing, there's did you hear about the Dolly experiment, or the contest, the art contest?
Yes.
Yeah, and so what do? They have an art contest. The guy that won the painting contest turned out to be a 13-year-old kid that did like 5 lines of code, right, and ended up generating a picture. And he doesn't know how to paint, but all of a sudden the real painters are all protesting that he shouldn't get a first prize. And by the way, GPT-4 can go take the bar exam and get in the top 10% right now.
Right.
And one of the
I want
things people, go ahead, I'm sorry, I get carried away.
I just want to take this back to distribution for a second, because I building off of what you said before in terms of the customer facing and what that really does in that. I think the other aspect of this is, overall, this is going to raise the level of organizational intelligence, because, I'm saying the same thing that you did, I think, because what it does is it really moves out the knowledge, that tacit knowledge, out to everybody in the organization, and CRM is a part of that. And I would say that if distributors were just 100% e-commerce online business, then all of the chatbot and all of the artificial and automated pieces, all of that whiz bang stuff would be just fine. The fact that we're talking about hybrid sales models, and will be for, I think, decades still,
Yep, I agree.
is what this really does, I think, for distributors, is it gives them um, an incredible amount of leverage as this comes online in pieces. I think really the key thing for distributor executives is making decisions about how much to bite off, what pieces to bite off, and the timing on all this.
Well, and from a very practical point of view, from a distributor, probably the biggest thing that's going to happen, even you walk out of a sales call or on the phone or physically with the customer. And as you're getting back in your car, you think, oh, I forgot to bring this up, or what, everybody suffers from CRS, can't remember stuff. And what AI does, I mean, just your buddies at Proton, I tell them that with all their recommendations, all it is a CRS solution. It just reminds them, well, this guy buys it every 3 months. It's been 3 months and 2 weeks. You ought to ask him. You got these 3 open quotes out that nobody ever followed up. You may be low bid. You need to call, but it's a cure for CRS. But it goes back to all the work that you guys have been doing on analytics, because what it basically does, it gives you better data quicker to make better decisions about what you do with your time and your resource. That's where the money is. And that's all about labor productivity. So it's not about eliminating jobs.
Much deeper visibility and transparency in terms of what's really happening at the street level.
Yep. It's fun. I mean, a lot of this has to do with APIs and things like that. And there's probably a bunch of people you could be interviewing talking about it. But I think this is kind of like, nobody had a fax strategy when it came out, right? And so everybody worried about their web strategy and digital strategy. And this is just another flavor. And 3 years from now, it's going to be all over the place, and we probably won't even be talking about it. It's happening that fast.
At the risk of sounding like a Luddite, I'm just going to go back to when we get into these phases of technology and cycles. I go back to NCR and the cash register, because that was really one of the first technologies that had a huge impact in terms of automating the point of sale process.
Right.
And not only did it do that, but the unexpected consequence was it cut down on employee theft of funds.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, there was a tracking system and automation of the sales process. So just to provide that for context, I think it's important to bring that back every once in a while as these things roll out. And I'm as excited as the next person in terms of what the impact of this will be. Again, I think it's really important to take the longer view on this in terms of where you put your investments into and where you're going to get the most return.
I'm almost certain there'll be an AI introduction workshop at UID next year. Almost positive, because it's interesting. A lot of people were asking the questions about it, and they're just, people are curious. We don't even have the early adopters yet, because if you talk about your hype cycle, one of the things I love about it is you get all this hype, you get the early adopters, then you go through the disappointment cycle where all they did was spray the money hose and got nothing, and then the thing finally starts to take off again. So we're not even at the disappointment cycle yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Exciting times. Mike, always good. Enjoyed the conversation. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tom. It's always fun. Can't wait to see what the next one is. Take care, buddy.